Hello, everybody. Happy Halloween. Today's Halloween, so pretty exciting. Today we're going to be talking about doors, how to open and close them. Now, there's a lot of great videos out there that show you how to open and close doors, but I hope this video gives a little bit of context around some of the nodes and their parameters and what they really mean. So let's begin. We're going to start with a new slate, so we'll just create a new level. Start from scratch. And let's bring in our skylight. All right, fog looks nice. And let's just create a very simple landscape, and great. So now we can sculpt our mountains. There, very simple. Okay, so in order to open up and close a door, we need a door. So let's go out to the Fab Marketplace and we'll search for a door. Let's go to Quixel Publisher. So come over here to Publishers. You type in Quixel and you can hit the Quixel Publisher. Now I want a free door, so I'll set this to free and we'll type in door. Alright, so I don't know, some of these aren't really doors. That's okay. Maybe they're parts of doors. So this looks like a good door right here because it's got a nice, looks like it's got some hinges where the door opens nicely. But it's a double door. I want to keep this kind of simple. I like this door, but I don't know. Sometimes the frame and the door are one mesh. So you open up the door and the frame follows. And it kind of looks weird. This one's just got a simple post, and so this will work really nicely. And it's Halloween, and this looks like a creepy door, so yeah, let's go with this one. Okay, so imported, get out of that, and we have our creepy door. So I have a folder that I created called Assets. I brought in some sounds, and we'll discuss this later, but we're going to make a creaking door. So let's just create a new folder called Blueprints. And we'll create a new blueprint. Actor. And we'll call this Creepy Door. So if you double click on this and get into the door, we'll just bring in our mesh. And just click on the mesh. You can hit F to focus it. And you see it's all at zeros. So that works well for us. And we'll just rename this to Creepy Door. Okay, so we have our door. Now if you come here to rotate it, so it looks like if I rotate it with a negative, that's the direction that I want. And it's nice because the door is well constructed. It's got this little pivot point right here, so we don't really need a hinge. But I'm just going to create a hinge regardless, just to kind of show you how to do it. So if you come here and, well, you can't type hinge. We'll create a cube, and this cube will act as our hinge. So we'll rename this hinge. And then let's just make it a small hinge. So the one thing about the hinge is it should be attached to the door. So let's so this works pretty well. Yeah, right there. If a little bit is sticking out like this, that's fine. So in order to resolve this little issue, let's just make that over there. So if you want to, you can just come over here to the materials, grab that, and all of a sudden it's sort of hidden. You can still kind of see it right there, but that's okay for this demonstration. You can put it inside the post right there and it'll be fine. Okay, so we have our hinge. Now we just take the door and we attach it to the hinge, so when we rotate the hinge, the door follows. And that's what we want. Okay, so we have our hinge, we have our door. Now we just need a collision box to say, hey, when we enter the collision box, the door opens, and when we exit the collision box, the door closes. So we'll come up here and we'll add box. And there's the box collision. And we'll just sort of make it kind of in the middle. Make it a little higher. Maybe a little wider. A good thing to do is you come to perspective, come to top, and I'll make it a little longer. But that looks like it's pretty well centered already. If I come to the left, yeah, you can see I'm just making it a, you don't have to be perfect on this. I'm just there we go. Perfection. Not really. Okay, so here we go. Here's our box. Actually, I want to just kind of increase it because when you enter the box, I don't want it to sort of hit you. So there we go. That looks good. Okay, so we have our box, and what I'm going to do is you right-click here, you add an event, and we go to Begin Overlap, and it's going to take us to our event graph, and we have our Begin Overlap. So you can right-click on it again and get the End Overlap. So now we have to tell when what is in the box, okay? When you begin the overlap of what. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast this to our player character. Or, sorry. I think it's cast to BP third. There we go. Third person character. Yeah, that's who we're using now. So take the other actor and just hook it up to the object, and we'll. Now this is the only time where we'll need one node, to, twice. One when we overlap the box, and one when we end the overlap. So if you come here and you type in timeline, at the very bottom will be your timeline. That's the one you want. And we're going to call this timeline creepy door. And you just hook this guy up to the reverse so that when you enter the box, we're going to play the timeline, and when we exit the box, we're going to reverse the timeline. So you have to double click on the timeline, and I'm just going to change this to 1. That's going to be 1 second, and that's the length of the timeline. Okay, and then we're going to add a float track, and I'm going to go quickly through this, and we'll come back to it when we make the door a little bit slower later on. So you're just going to put 0 and 0. Make sure you hit the enter key. I've gotten in trouble so many times where I just sort of tab through stuff and I don't hit the enter key, and then it doesn't actually register the amounts that I want. So just hit the enter key after you hit the 1 or 0. Okay, so I've got my float track. Let's rename it. I'll just rename it Drag Creepy Door. You can name it anything you want. And this all looks pretty good. We'll go through the parameters a little bit later. And now, since my track goes from 0 to 1, the value is going from 0 to 1. I want to rotate it 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to create a lerp, a linear interpolation rotator, because we're rotating it. And I'm starting at 0, 0, 0. Those were the values that we saw on the rotation when we looked at our mesh. And since I want it to go outwards, I'm going to put minus 90 right there. So that's good. That's going to make the door open outwards. So when we go to update, we're going to update the relative rotation of our hinge, because we're going to be moving the hinge. Now, in this case, you could pick the creepy door because it had that pivot point, so it was well constructed. So you don't need the hinge, but we created a hinge, so we'll use it. Then you take the lerp rotator and you put it to the new rotation, and that's going to tell it, yeah, when it's playing, move it to minus 90 in 1 second smoothly. So again, it's going to be a linear interpolation. It's just going to be smooth. You can make this non-linear by adding additional points and putting, instead of 0.5, 0.5, maybe you put 0.5, 0.75. Or you can smooth it out, and there's ways of doing that as well, but we'll just kind of continue with this. So once I compile this blueprint actually should be pretty ready. So all we have to do now is just bring this in and plop into our world, and this should work. So I come out of the box, it closes, I go into the box, it opens, and that's great. Okay, so we're done there. So let's make the door go a little bit slower. So if I right click, if I click on that point right there, you'll see the values of that point right here, 1 and 1. Now what this says is it takes 5 seconds in order for the door to open. Okay, that's what this 5 will be on this track. Well, that's 54. So if I just leave it at that, and if you click this and this, you'll see that the 5 is up here. The value is still 1. I'm not changing that yet. So you'll see it takes 5 seconds for the door to open, but the whole entire timeline only runs for 1 second. So that's how you can interpret these two parameters. So if I come here and go here, it's only going to go part way. You see how it just kind of moved a little bit? I don't know if you saw that. See, it didn't move all the way. That's 20 degrees. Well, I don't know if it's 20, but it should be 20. It only moved 20 degrees because it takes 5 seconds for the door to fully open, but we're only allowing it 1 second. So if you come back into your blueprint and you change the length to 5 as well, you compile it, and you plop into the world, now it's going to move the full 90 degrees, but it's doing it very slowly. So that's what we want. Just an FYI, we don't need to really do anything in this case. But if you changed this value, the value, to 0.5, what it basically is doing is multiplying the lerp, which is at minus 90, with this value right here, which is 0.5. So if I save this and get back into the world, this is only going to move 45 degrees. So that works well. We'll just change, this back to, we'll change this back to 1. So it goes the full. If I wanted to fully swing open, I could hit a 2 right there, and it'll fully swing open 180 degrees. I don't really want that. But you can kind of play around with stuff and make it go a little bit further than what you intended by putting a 1.1. Sometimes you want to do that. So this works well. And then the only thing we have to kind of do now is add in our sounds. So if we go to the event graph, I'm going to come up here again, and I'm going to create an audio. So there's our audio. And if I want to rename it, I'll just say audio creepy door. So you come over to the audio, come to the details panel, and there's really only 2 things you have to do. You have to pick your door, your sound. So I downloaded 2 sounds from Pixabay, and I'll just put, I think one of them was squeaky interior wooden door. We'll use that one. Now this sound is like 20 seconds. I don't want it playing 20 seconds as the door is opening and closing, so I'll show you how to do that. In order to do that, the first thing you have to do is you got to go to auto activate and deactivate this. Make sure you deactivate that and you pick your sound, and you're pretty good to go. So what we're going to do is, after we cast to our third person, to our character, we're going to play. And I'll say play auto creepy door. And I'm going to do that when I leave as well, because the door's moving. So anytime it's moving, I want to play the audio. And then on the timeline, when the timeline is finished, I want to stop the audio. And that's really all you have to do. And hopefully this works. I'll turn up the sound a little bit. See if so it works. We have a creepy creaking door. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful Halloween. Take care.